is good, good people? You are now listening to another episode of At the Plate with Danny Foxworth. I am your humble narrator, Danny Foxworth, and it's great to be back in the building with you once again. So this one's just going to be a little mini, just talking about MLB standings and other things that caught my interest in the world of baseball. So first and foremost, I got to give a shout out to the local squad, the Charleston Riverdogs. They had the highest single season attendance in all of Class Single A baseball this year. So shout out to them. Still didn't get to throw out the first pitch this year, but you know what? I'm going to keep applying pressure. Delayed, not denied. I will throw out the first pitch of the Riverdogs game one day. And also, I want to give a big shout out to Lawrence Butler, who's one of my favorite young players in all of Major League Baseball for the Oakland A's. He became the first A's player to reach the 20 home run, 20 stolen bases in a single season since Coco Crisp did that achievement back in 2013. So big shout out to Lawrence Butler. And I was thumbing through the timeline on social media a couple days ago, and I noticed that one of my favorite running backs, Arian Foster, looks like he actually started getting interested in baseball, and for some reason, unbeknownst to me, he decided to start rooting for the Milwaukee Brewers. And yeah, smart move. And just going back on his timeline and seeing his attachment to it, like he'll post a picture of him sitting in his room with a drink in his hand watching the game. And I think they actually invited him to a Brewers game to throw out the first pitch. And when they came to Houston, he was posted up at the game, and that was really cool to see. I always love seeing people becoming newly attached to something, and just like a new fresh feeling, and you just like excited about this particular sport. And seeing Arian Foster really showing so much zeal with the Milwaukee Brewers, it's really been a treat to see. So without further ado, season's winding down. Playoff races, the wild card races especially, are in a tight race, and we're going to go over the MLB standings. So the first thing we're going to do is go to the NL East. And atop the NL East with a commanding lead are the Philadelphia Phillies. They got a record of 89-61. They have a healthy 12-game lead over the second place New York Mets. Man, I tell you, you want to talk about the best of times and the worst of times. From opening day to June 12th, the Mets had the best record in Major League Baseball. And from June 13th to now, they have the worst record in Major League Baseball. So, man, roller coaster indeed. In the middle of the NL East, you have the Florida Marlins. They have a record of 70-80, which is a little unbecoming of Marlins. You know, normally they're at the very bottom of the division. So they're making progress. Then talk about disappointment. The Atlanta Braves are in fourth place in the NL East with a record of 66-83. Yeah, 22 and a half games out of first place. They're not going to make the playoffs, but there's always next year. You know, shout out to Truist Field. I had the pleasure of going to that ballpark, and it's really nice. And bringing up the rear in the NL East is the Washington Nationals with a record of 62-87. Then moving on to the NL Central, the aforementioned Brew Crew with a record of 91-59. They have a 5.5 game lead over the Chicago Cubs, who have a record of 85-64. The Cincinnati Reds are in the middle of the pack. Shout out Skyline Chili with a record of 74-75. The Cardinals with a record of 73-77. And the Pirates, the poor Pirates, I tell you, beautiful ballpark and just absolutely just doo-doo product on the field. They got a record of 65-85. They're 26 games out of first place. Then moving out to the NL West, the Dodgers. Them and the Padres, they've been neck and neck for the lead in the NL West, and the Dodgers have a 2.5 game lead over the Padres. The Dodgers have a record of 84-65. The Padres have a record of 82-68. The Giants making some noise, trying to sneak in and get in with a wild card spot. They have a record of 75-74. Then the D-backs also right there with the Giants, trying to get that third NL wild card spot. They're right at 500 with a record of 75-75, and those poor Colorado Rockies. They have a record of 41-109. But even in their futility, they still managed to put up some pretty good attendance numbers at their ball over at Coors Field on a regular basis, man. So shout out to the Rockies fan base for being loyal. And now we're going to head over to the American League. And atop the AL East, the Toronto Blue Jays, man. If you would have told me at the beginning of the year that they would be the leaders in this division, I'd have laughed in your face. But joke is on me. They're sitting pretty atop the AL East with a record of 87 and 62. The Yankees are 4 games back with a record of 83 and 66. The Red Sox right behind them, 5.5 games out of first with a record of 82 and 68. The Rays with a record of 73 and 76, and bringing up the rear, the Baltimore Orioles. I did not see this coming from this squad this year, but yeah, it's quite a disappointment with a record of 69 and 80. And moving on to the American League Central, the Detroit Tigers with a solid grip on the AL Central with a record of 85 and 65. The Cleveland Guardians, shout out to my guy Retro Rob, friend of the podcast. Guardians have a record of 78 and 71 with a 6.5 games out of first place. The Royals sitting right at 500 with a record of 75 and 75. The Twins, 65 and 84. And the White Sox bringing up the rear. They actually don't have the worst record in the league this year. Shocker. With a record of 57 and 93. And then moving over to the AL West, there was Seattle Mariners. Hottest team in baseball right now. They're on a 9-game winning streak at the time of this recording. They have a 1-game lead over the Houston Astros with a record of 82 and 68, and the Astros have a record of 80 and 69. My beloved Texas Rangers are in the thick of things in the wild card hunt in the American League. They have a record of 79 and 71. They're 3 games out of first place. The A's, it just hurts me that I can't say Oakland A's because they'll always be Oakland to me. They have a record of 70 and 80, which is a lot better than I anticipated from them this year. So shout out to them. They got a real bright future with the young guns on that squad. And bringing up the rear, the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim with a record of 69 and 81. So now going to the wild card race. In the National League, the 3 wild card spots are currently occupied by the Cubs, Padres, and the Mets. But the Giants and the Diamondbacks are a game and a half and 2 games out of the 3rd spot in a wild card. And then in the AL wild card, you have the Yankees and the Red Sox securing the top 2 wild card spots, and the Astros have the 3rd spot. Texas Rangers are 2.5 games out of the 3rd wild card spot, and the Guardians are 2.5 games out. And I believe the Rangers and Guardians play each other in later on this week, if I'm not mistaken. So it's going to be a tight race. I mean, it's really down to the wire now. It's probably about 15 games left to go in the season, if that. So really going to be interested in to see how everything is going to play out. And we'll have a playoff preview episode of At the Plate, on here. So y'all make sure y'all stay tuned for that. And standings aside, I want to talk about the top 5 in batting average, home runs, and RBIs in Major League Baseball. So as of this recording, which is on a Monday, Aaron Judge leads the league in batting average. Shout out former Charleston Riverdog, class of 2015. Then Jack Wilson from the A's. He has an average of 318. Bo Bichette of the Toronto Blue Jays is batting 311. Trey Turner batting 305 for the Philadelphia Phillies, and Vladdy Jr. with the Blue Jays. They got 2 Blue Jays in the top 5 in batting average. He's number 5 in the league in batting average with a 304 average. Then the big dumper. It is the year of the big dumper when it comes to dingers. Cal Raleigh, Mariners catcher, leads the league with 54 home runs, but Schwarber's hot on his heels. He hit another home run yesterday. He's at 52. Shohei Ohtani doing Shohei Ohtani things. The man is a human cheat code. He's got 49 home runs. The aforementioned Aaron Judge with 48, and Eugenio Suarez of the Mariners with 45 home runs. Speaking of Kyle Schwarber, he leads the majors in RBIs right now with 127. And Pete Alonso, second place with 117 RBIs. Cal Raleigh, 115 RBIs, which is good for 3rd in the league in RBIs. Eugenio Suarez, again, this man is flat out raking, man. 109 RBIs for the year, which puts him at 4th. And then Riley Green of the Detroit Tigers bringing up the 5th spot with 108 RBIs. So shout out to those dudes. They've truly been balling out this year. And I'm going to end this with I never talked about my my personal top 5 pitchers. So at number 5, one of the biggest reasons why I became a fan of the Texas Rangers is the Express, Nolan Ryan. Man, I tell you, the all-time leader in strikeouts. It's hard to believe. He almost finished his career at 6,000 strikeouts. He's got 5,714 career strikeouts, which is just insane to just wrap your mind around. And he's got 7 no-hitters. Oddly enough, he's never won a Cy Young ever in his career. But Nolan Ryan isn't my number 5. My number 4, even though he's a rival, he's in our division, King Felix. I always been a huge fan of Felix Hernandez. Then coming in at number 3, Dwight Gooden. That man was an absolute phenom. This man he made it to the majors at age 19 and struck out 276 batters at the age of 19. Then follows that up at age 20, throwing 268 strikeouts. Has a record of 24-4 with a 1.53 ERA, throws 16 complete games and throws 8 shutouts. Like, who does that? You talk about lightning in a bottle, but man, and he couldn't shake the habit of the substance abuse, and his career just took a nosedive. But for those first few years that he was in the league, it was his world and we were living in it. Then coming in at number 2, my guy, Big Sexy, Bartolo Colon. Shout out to my guy, Calvin Wright, who was the Mets fan, and he's been on the podcast a couple times. And I don't know anybody else outside of us that are bigger Bartolo fans. So Bartolo Colon is my number 2. And my favorite pitcher of all time is the great Greg Maddux. This goes pre-Braves days. This was back when he was pitching for the Cubs. And I would get off the bus, and whenever I get home from school, every day without fail, there would be a Cubs game on TV on WGN, and I just used to love watching him play. That man's control is just ridiculous. He could put them pitches anywhere he wanted to, and he wasn't a flamethrower, but man, he would just get you out with his pitches routinely were in the high 80s, low 90s, and he could just do whatever he wants. Man threw a complete game on 70-something pitches, which is flat out ridiculous. But those are my 5 favorite pitchers of all time. And that's going to do it for this episode of At the Plate with Danny Foxworth. Make sure you tell a friend about the podcast. Make sure you download, and subscribe to At the Plate. You can find me also on my YouTube channel at Danny Foxworth 843. There you can find videos of every episode of this podcast, as well as my Candle podcast, A Wicked Good Time with Danny Foxworth, Since We Last Spoke with Danny Foxworth, and Growing Up Low Country with Liz and Danny. And until next time, y'all be good. 3 strikes.